What the fuck is happening, fam? It is your boy, the Soulness Sativa, the Ayatollah of Indica, aka the Bobby Fischer BHO, aka the Hickson of Hash, aka the Holiest Hash, and aka the Gordon Ryan of Ganj, aka Ned Sparks, aka Willie the Cool Penguin, aka Lord Bongtimore. And I'm here today with episode number 101 of the Let's Toke About It podcast. And as I'm recording this, it is the Monday night before I go down to Ocean City to record an episode with a good friend of mine, longtime friend, Shane Truitt, who is a now published author, just published his first book, Fade into Reach, and it's amazing. It's available now. You can go download it on fucking Barnes & Noble. You can fucking go order a copy at Tradecraft Photo. Go talk to him. I actually just found a great video that he took of me hitting the Plumbus rig. If you're a Rick and Morty fan, then you know what the Plumbus is. And he has the rig. And I want it. I don't think he really even uses it anymore. But I want it. We're supposed to do a long ass fucking podcast, but if we can't ingest tobacco wherever we're going to be at, we're going to have to take some breaks. By now, episode 100 is out. You should have gone and listened to it with Joe Hardcore, about 3+ hours. I mean, this dude really fucking getting after it. Really having a fucking cool conversation, man. That's my guy, Joe Hardcore. We're hitting the Banya. Next time I go to Philly, it's going to be some good shit, which is probably sooner rather than later. I would like to go through and, see Joe, see my Russian homies at Kozma, my man Matt, the grappling yogi. Super fucking annoyed. I've been trying to get up there for like 2 months and haven't been able to. Life, bad stuff. Busy. What else has been going on? Still partnered with First Form, firstform.com/ElliotAces. Go get some supplements. On and popping and all the other facets of life going through. Got the Patreon. If you're a 2 tiers of Patreon, got the purple belt and black belt. You could be the purple belt, $5 a month. Get you whatever random shit I feel like posting and weed content. You can have any of the books or YouTubes that I'm watching or podcasts I'm listening to, post those up. If you are the black belt member, you get all the purple belt shit, but then you also get 3 Sundays a month, an hour, maybe longer with me. The last few weeks, I've been reading from The Way of the Superior Man. Highly recommend the book. If you are a Patreon member, I have already posted the link in there, so you could just get the PDF for free. And then I'm going through and pretty much reading it from start to finish, giving my commentary on it as I'm reading it. The last 3 weeks, that's what I've been doing, is going through it. There's a lot of good shit in there, man. I had never heard of this book, and then a couple videos popped up of it, and I was like, well, I'm into this. This sounds right up my alley. And to be honest, I've been utilizing it, trying to. It's great because there's definitely elements that need to be kept in mind when dealing with women, dealing with work, relationships, business, your sexual essence. So I'm trying to learn some shit and apply it in any ways that are applicable to me. 100 episodes down, and I figure I went through earlier and just started writing down all the episodes that stuck out to me. Figured I'd go through them, talk about them a little bit briefly, not too much. This podcast, I figure it's a good place to kind of reintroduce myself for anybody that's relatively new here and doesn't know how things are. Right, I'm a recovering addict. I've been off the shit for over 13 years, a little more than 2 years completely clean. And then after that, I moved to some version of California clean. Obviously, I didn't want to get back on the pharmaceutical scene after I just left out of the pharmaceutical and street pharmaceutical scene. So I went those 2+ years with no meds, no nothing, didn't treat, just raw dogging my anxiety and depression, treating it with natural things like going out skateboarding, playing music, getting creative, learning how to better myself, going to therapy, actually coming up with a plan in therapy so that I don't fucking have to be there forever. Learn healthy coping mechanisms, learn what my defense mechanisms are and how to fucking avoid them, how to be honest and share with others what's really going on with me, and opportunity met desire when I decided to start smoking again. But to be honest, the last 11+ years since leaving a 12-step program, While almost all of my 12-step friends are no longer in contact with me, even though I try to reach out to some of them, which I get, the mindset is if you use, you'll die. And using weed is the same as using heroin. You'll die. And, I used to buy into that. And for a long time, I really felt like I was almost perpetrating. I like talk to somebody like, oh, my fucking quit date is blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I've been smoking weed this whole blah, blah, blah. So it doesn't matter, man. It's about quality of life improvements. And I would argue in many cases that while nobody is superior, I've had some people try to invalidate my recovery and recovery process while simultaneously they have gained and lost 100 pounds twice. And I don't want to put the person on blast because I love them and they are a part of the industry and they help a shit ton of people, including myself, and have many times. But the reality is that like abstinence is not the only way. Do I recommend that you come out of rehab and start smoking? No, probably not. It was really important for me to do all the step work that I did, have a clear head, let my brain chemistry readjust, figure out what was real, what wasn't, what I needed, what I didn't, learned how to fucking be grateful for the things that I have and move forward in a positive manner. So, and then the last 11 or whatever years, I've got gone through many phases, lived many lives. I still try to apply those principles in my work and, whether I was working for a company or working for myself in my life as a parent. I became a father. I have 3 children. They are absolutely amazing. I've been in and around the weed industry a long time, longer than it was even an industry. Put my life on the line for the plant. Understand what the plant does for myself and many others. Have always found that very valuable. And honestly, am super thankful that I was brave enough to actually say, you know what, fuck this. I'm going to do what feels right. And like I said, there was definitely struggles when, I told my friends and family or whatever. And there was definitely some guilt and worry and shame at first. But, I got over that real quick and I said, fuck that. And so I had to learn. I just took all the things that I did when I was completely clean and started doing them elsewhere. I always had people that I could call and talk to. And, if somebody didn't pick up, I call somebody else. My brain's fucking nuts, man. When I'm in here by myself, it can get a little crazy sometimes. So, I got into jiu-jitsu. That jiu-jitsu is like a 12-step meeting on steroids. Instead of talking out your problems, though, you solve them by solving the problem is strangling or breaking the joints of whoever it is that is your opponent in that moment, And there's always an element of are you beating yourself? I just watched a video of Dustin Poirier when he's fighting Khabib and he fucking jumps the gilly and he's got it pretty fucking tight. And you can see Khabib's muscles tensing up and then he starts wiggling his head loose and he gets loose and you can see the fucking look in Poirier's eyes. Like it's the same as the 14th round in Rocky when fucking Apollo knocks Rocky down and Rocky's coach is like, stay down, Rock, stay down, Rock. And Rocky fucking, like the big dumb idiot he is, gets the fuck up and he takes Apollo's soul right there, just saying, yeah, you might be beating my ass, but I can take it. Can you keep dishing it? You know? And that's exactly what fucking Khabib did to Dustin. And Dustin, you could tell after that it was lost. And Khabib passed his guard, took his back, and fucking sunk that choke in. Dustin was done, boy. That was it. And Khabib gave him a way out with that rear naked. Actually, at my house, I've been watching all these Khabib highlights and fights with my kids. I'm like explaining to them like how fucking epic the Khabib Conor fight is and what it meant for mixed martial arts. And I have a great appreciation for that fight because while I love Conor and I'm a huge Conor fan, I mean, more than I am a Khabib fan, even. Maybe because Connor gets mistaken for me in places. He does look a little bit like me. I could see when people say that, but I mean, he's short and Irish. But it was a great fight to be able to teach my kids lessons like hey, you don't disrespect your opponent in that way. And I showed them some of Khabib's, like even that clip with Poirier, right? Khabib goes over to Dustin and raises his hand up and like kiss him on the cheek or whatever, and just like is a really good sport about things and really cares about the sportsmanship. I like showing them guys like Charles Oliveira, same kind of thing, goes over and shakes the hand of the corners and his opponent. It's cool and to show them the Khabib fight, be able to point out some different grappling. I'm like try and give them some ideas of what to do when they're on the mats. I'm like, oh, look at how he's triangling his feet around the legs here. They love that shit. And they're like, that's why you don't be disrespectful to somebody. I was like, this is what happened with Khabib. Some people say he, tainted the fight by running over and chasing down Connor's coaches after the fight, and he wasn't being a good sportsman after that, throwing his mouth guard. I tried to explain to him how cultures are different in Eastern Europe than they are here. Oh, wow. Smoking on some Candyland gelato. I forget what the Candyland is. I had it at one point years ago. I'll tell you what, it is pretty tasty. Not gonna lie. Probably make a video for the Purple Belt Patreon tier. Maybe tomorrow. Shit. Shit. Um, but yeah, so let me get my notebook here. The old Dwight Durbin task book. Like I said, I went through all the prior 100 episodes, and I figure I'd give you a breakdown on some of my favorites. There's a bunch of them. Some of them probably aren't going to be very long anecdotes. Podcast first started in 2019. It's taken me a long time to fucking get 100 episodes under my belt. And there were some chunks where I really went hard, and that fell off for a while. Really went hard, fell off for a while. Some of my viewership went fluctuated, but starting in 2019 or whatever, things were, very much focused around the Maryland and DC cannabis scene. So I developed a pretty niche little podcast. And honestly, due to all the chaos that was going on, some of my creative shit fell by the wayside. I get lazy and I'm the only one doing any of this. So sometimes it can be very difficult. I've gotten a lot better over the last couple of years, but still go through periods where it's like I'll have 4 or 5 in the clip, and it's been a month since I released one. It's like, okay, you fucking lazy fuck, just do it. First couple episodes, finding a little groove, and episode number one was released June 7th, 2019. It's only about 30 minutes. I think King Kron is on it. He's a co-host for quite some time, through various different points of the podcast. Most of the time it's been solo, but there are times where he has been a co-host. Episodes 2, 3, and 4, weed stuff in the local market. A lot of shit talking too. I did a lot of fucking shit talking. Episode number 5, the most listened to episode of the Let's Talk About It podcast to date. Episode number 5, a cultivating conversation with Mackie Barch, the owner of Culta, which for anybody that doesn't know, and I've said it multiple times, and if you haven't listened to it, you need to go back and listen to it. It's great. It's fucking great. First of all, the dude is a cool ass guy. I love that guy and will always have love for him, no matter how much people in the Maryland market hate on him. Uh, for many years, people would talk shit, blaming Mackey for fucking. I mean, it's communist tactics, literally communist tactics. You can't blame the corporation. You have to pick a face and use that. And so they blamed Mackey for blocking home grow and tried to paint him to be this monster. And, early on, the marketing was crazy. People were fucking worked at one dispensary, and the social media people would try and report other dispensaries. And I mean, it was like the Wild Wild West, dude. People were just snitching left and right on each other. It was crazy. But Mackey kind of brought some legitimacy to the podcast. Up until then, he had, I mean, he let me announce the cookies release. Got on a live with me, and I'll never forget it. I was actually over in Baltimore, and I had stopped at Carroll Park to do the live, which was cool because Carroll Park is a dope little skate park that I used to shoot dope at, and there's like needles everywhere, and I mean it's one of the gnarliest skate parks you've ever ridden. I don't care who you are, but like at the time, I was also down in DC a lot, and just up and about, and I don't remember exactly why, but Audra and the fucking kids were gone. And so I got home mad fucking late. Of course, I had something going on till like 4 in the fucking morning, 5 in the morning. Supposed to meet Mackie at noon at my shop, Mackie and Chase. It's fuck. I wake up and it's fucking noon. Like I'm like, I'll be over there soon. They've been waiting. I made this man wait like 40 minutes before I got there. Any normal person would have left. Mackie, if you're listening, friend of the Let's Talk About It podcast, you're a real one for that. And he did not disappoint. Like I said, he's been involved in a ton of shit. I mean, he's some of the shit he's messaged me about his dad and his life. I mean, this is a motherfucker. You would never know this shit, and he'll never do another episode of Let's Talk About It, I'm sure. At least not for the foreseeable future, due to the board. Um, and I mean, we have, like I said, we have conversations. It's whatever. But he kicked off the podcast strong. He was talking about his time in Oregon and was talking, referring to just this billboard, how when you came into town, it was some small ass fucking podunk, white trash, fucking bullshit Oregon town. And when you came into town, there was a old ripped up billboard that said no niggers, no Jews, and had a fucking swastika painted on it. And that actually ended up causing like a whole big stink, like over a year later. My next guest, Jill Stein, I believe her name is Stein, if I'm not mistaken. Super nice woman. Super nice woman. I did her podcast, Conversations with Mary Jane. She did mine. I went out with her and helped her out with her nonprofit one day, get an inside look at what they did for the community. And she had been running this nonprofit that literally fed Baltimore homeless for years. And it gave me another level of respect for her because originally I looked at her, honestly, I looked at her as kind of an opportunist. She ran like a magazine, and I felt like, how involved in the culture are you? And I was a hater. But she saw Mackie did my podcast. Nobody could get Mackie at that point. He did Let's Talk About It because he's a fucking real one. She wanted to do it. We did a little swap. It was great. You can go check out my episode. Unless she took it down, she might have. I don't think we're tight now because, like I said, like a year later, she wrote an open letter to Mackie, like trying to renounce his racist ways for what he said on my podcast. They even shouted my podcast out in the letter and didn't even fucking tag me. Come on, bro. Tag me. If you're gonna talk shit, look, man, no press is bad press. All press is good press. Look out for a player. And I know it really had nothing to do with me. But I mean, the fact that they even did that to me was so stupid. And after that, I was like, I'm over it. COVID just like changed everything and everyone. So that was episode 7 was Jill Stein. Go check that one out. Great episode. Some of these old ones, man, they're fucking hilarious, dude. I cringe thinking about listening to it, but if you haven't, you absolutely should. There's a lot of gems in there. Episode number 8. This was another really popular one because it was just such a big moment for the culture. The episode number 8, Culta and Cookies collab. That episode is also about a Phone Homie and his collaboration with the DC-based Three Stars Brewery. I still have the cups from that night. And one of my biggest podcast regrets is not getting Homie on the show. We had talked about it a bunch of times, and I actually was going to meet up with him during COVID early on, and then he got sick, and we just weren't able to make it work. And but we talked a lot, kind of in the end of his life. If you don't know Phone Homie, Rico, it's a great dude for the community. He never did me any wrong. He actually only showed me nothing but love. I know there are people out there that maybe he didn't have as great of a relationship with, and I get that. That's not my experience, so I'm not going to speak on that. And I don't want to I want to speak ill of somebody who's no longer here to defend themselves. And like I said, for the plant, the community, especially in DC, I mean, everybody fucking knew Phone Homie. The Slab Hour, DJ Architect was his SoundCloud DJ shit. I mean, the guy was he's a father, a Marine, could go on and on, a pioneer in the weed world. And Three Star did a collaboration, a beer collab, Turpendipity. Everyone knows Phone Homie liked to drink. And Turpendipity was absolutely fucking amazing. And that night at the Three Stars Brewery, Rico kept giving me fucking tickets for more beers. I mean, he really, was a great dude. I mean, I'll never forget was one of my first event vending alone. Lord Bongtimore started out as the ginger dread man with a red-headed dreaded cohort who is a fucking piece of shit. He is somebody I will speak ill of. Fucking piece of shit. Tried to kill his fucking ex-wife in a fit of meth outrage and is now serving 40 years in a Colorado state prison. Owes me a bunch of bread. I let his ex-wife suck my dick. That was payment enough. So this was my first event, and I realized I forgot my light. It was pretty bare bones, not many flavors. I had these taffies, which I swear to God, these 100 milligram taffies were the fucking most fire edible you ever ate. I mean, it felt like your fucking eyes were bleeding, bro. Well, they were gonna bleed. They were so fucking dry and red. What's the phrase? Redder than the devil's dick. That's what they were. Rest in peace to Phone Homie, man. I still actually, it was so weird, if you wanted to do his events, because they were so popular, you had to get on and send him an email at midnight. And if you sent it past like 10, the spots were filled. It was like a sneaker release. And to this day, I still have alarms that go off on Tuesdays and Wednesdays for Phone Homie events. I never turned them off just because I like to get them, man. It just reminds me of some of those early days and in the DC scene. For me, I was way late to the party. Still, it was awesome. Episode number 9. I forget if Mackey's number 1 and this is number 2, or this is number 2 and Mackey's number 1. Depot number 9. Depot's don't sell rosin, THC based pricing, Sov suckers. Right at the time, I was talking shit on sovereignty bongs for no reason. I actually have 2. I'm looking for somebody that etches glass. So if you etch glass, I need your help. Because I want to get one etched and I want to give it to somebody as a gift. So please let me know. I would love, 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 love to utilize your services, please. And so it was like a shit talking one, but it was also very informative as to why the dispensaries don't sell rosin. And especially at that time, there was like, we were talking about dealing with a flower drought, and there was all sorts of like price gouging and the THC based pricing. If the higher the THC, the fucking more it was selling for. And that was a popular one. Episode number 10 was a big one. It was about like Maryland, the important parts. We're talking about Maryland Lobby Day, Terpy News and some of the shit that was going on with him. Terpy News was really a guy, I don't know where he is, and I miss him deeply. And if he's listening to this, if you're listening to this, buddy, hit me up, man. I miss you. And he was a good friend for a while. Definitely had some, anxieties. And to be honest, I believe they were well founded. I heard some stories from him and some stories from a couple other people in the scene that had some similar experiences. And, given the petty nature of some of these companies, I didn't put it outside the realm of possibilities. But it is secondhand information, someone else's experience, and who knows at what point they're exaggerating. So to get to the specifics, I don't think is important. But Terpy News and I did a lot of work together, and I was always the person that he went to drop these things and release them, and I would always repost, and him and I would work shit together. I mean, the first time I ever went to a grow was the G Leaf grow, and we were there. And look, I'm not saying they figured out who fucking he was, but halfway through the tour got shut down, and we all had to like leave the grow area. And that's because there were rumors that G Leaf was having some mold and powdery mildew and maybe a bug issue. I can't confirm it because I didn't get to go to those rooms, but it was interesting that it got shut down halfway through. And then also, side note, MCC ex head of the MCC later became like a key part of the G Leaf operation and their expansion into other markets. It's like no different than like the fucking head of a pharmaceutical company, or like an ex FDA person gets put on the board of a pharmaceutical company. Shit happens all the time. Hey, you make these regulations when you get out of the FDA, we got a spot for you over here, buddy. You know? I actually just posted on my story today that we did not deserve Terpy News. He was a good man. I mean, he's still alive, I'm assuming. I have no reason to believe otherwise. But what he did for the market was invaluable, and he got bullied by the industry and fucking useful idiot employees of the industry to a point where he said, "Fuck y'all, I'm done." And I'm pretty sure he just deleted his social media, and nobody knows who the fuck he is. I mean, me, I can't say that I'm done. It's but I mean, there have been times where like I said, I've stopped making content. I've stopped recording episodes and whatever, because I'm like, fucking people are idiots, dude. They're not fucking getting it. And so I understand. Episode number 12. This was an important episode. I also posted this on my story. Came out 3/4/2020. It was actually a two-part episode. Well, it was one episode, and half of it was an interview I did with Sean Scott. Sean Scott was just a guy in the community who sent me some messages thanking me for inspiring him to stop drinking, and how cannabis had been helping him. And he went to meetings, and between going to utilizing a 12-step program and cannabis, he now at this point has almost fucking 5 years clean. And him and I have been in contact the whole time. We actually recorded the episode on the top of a building in the west side of fucking Manhattan, and it was crazy. This is March of 2020. It was either like right before or right after my kid's mom moved out, and my kids wouldn't have been able to come to my funeral if I had died. Went to New York, like I said, March 2020, April, when there were supposed to be bodies stacked up in the street. There's none. I went to fucking Times Square, New York, Times Square. Bars don't close till 4 a.m. there. Every time I've been there in New York City in my life and been to Times Square, it is jumping. Even at 1, 2 in the morning, there are a ton of people. Ton. Everywhere. You know how many I saw when I was up there March 4th of 2020? Or even like a week or two before that, whenever it was I actually was up there? None. Well, excuse me, I saw six. 6 people was what I counted. 6 people in Times Square, like 1 in the morning. Because I also went up there when I interviewed Sean Scott, talked to him, and then I went to my homies at Happy Monkey and recorded an episode of the Happy Monkey podcast. Which, if you don't know Happy Monkey, man, Happy Monkey 420, local dudes who fucking worked their asses off to get through. First of all, they had the dopest speakeasy you've ever encountered in your life. You want to talk about for the fucking culture? Happy Monkey, man. And those dudes, they showed me so much love. Yo, if y'all are listening, I love y'all. David, I love you. Fucking Vlad, fucking all y'all. Fucking every time I've been in New York since, it has been a beautiful experience. Some of the flyest pictures I've ever taken, one of the coolest spots I've ever been to in my life, place that I will just have memories forever. For real. Happy Monkey. And so anyway, I recorded this, and then I also did like a Q&A response from Instagram where I was talking about can weed kill the coronavirus? Weed heads were not getting fucking sick with the vid. We called it coronavirus back then. Also, I single-handedly smashed and destroyed the Maryland Leafs' first cannabis cup. They had announced it, and then I fucking just went bananas ham on this podcast, clowning the fuck out of it, and then they didn't do one. I think they did, but it was like 3 years later. So I definitely. I mean, look, dude, I fucking changed the culture back then. My stories, my fucking impressions, my analytics were fucking off the charts. Then all this COVID shit started happening, and my shit went from 1,300 story views daily to 50. I don't want to hear any of this fucking. Why would they shadow ban you? They fucking did. Because because I was posting like a fucking madman. That was a part of why I stopped, dude. I let the shit censor me at some points. I'm like, fuck this. I'm not gonna go on my story and fucking live, and nobody fucking is on here because Instagram is intentionally turning down my traffic. Like, I'm not even that crazy. So if you think that they were doing that shit, they were doing that shit to me. They were doing it to fucking everybody. Episode 13, the one after 12. Ed Wiedenfeld, you know? Ed was ex-Reagan, like, attorney, was definitely a part of some anti-weed shit, some war on drug shit. Got Parkinson's, changed his ways, got rid of his clearances, the whole nine. District Cannabis, I mean, when he was alive, dude, they were great. They were easily the best DC grow. When they came to Maryland, I was pumped. They made a huge splash with the gelato cake. I actually was referred. Somebody had reached out to me because Mackie did my podcast and was like, "Hey, you should get Ed to do fucking LB's podcast." And he did. And, it's a really cool episode. We had Andres on there too. I had both of them, the lawyer and the farmer. And I was in Ed's swanky office down in DC during the COVID, and I had my little Pax Vaporizer Pro, Pax 2, and was vaping. That was, man, I let old Ed Wiedenfeld hit the runts, man. That Bud Smith runts. Well, nothing like it. And that was the cut that washed too. Anybody that was hanging fucking around with me back in 2018, 19, 20, 21, that Bud Smith runts was the fucking jam in flower or rosin form. Muy perfecto. But District Cannabis has always shown me love. One of the only people that has ever actually paid me money for my marketing services for an ad campaign for them, and they believed I was a good fit, and I fucking was, to be honest. I love it, and I love them for that. And will, even though I don't like that they're having an AI grow for their grow that already fucking had only 3 people working in it. Other than that, I love District Cannabis. I think they bring a high quality product for a reasonable price point to the consumers, you know? And they keep it simple, man. They don't go crazy. They got what they got. They do what they do, and they fucking are good at it, you know? And it's like, it's a staple in the Maryland market. Episode 14, Fit and Cannabis. Again, this was in like May of 2020, this episode. Was really on the wave of this is bullshit from the beginning. If you don't know, my mom worked in infection control. I've seen pandemics my whole life. I've seen her freak out, and then I'm like, well, how many patients are your hospital? She's like, well, 0. And it's like, what's the severity of this thing? With the exception of Ebola, it's all like flu and cold shit. I'm like, fuck this. Yeah, I'm not dealing with this. But I also at that point was like starting jujitsu. Really, my kid's mom had left, and the time when I didn't have my kids, I was doing a lot of reflecting, eating a lot of mushrooms, changing my relationship with alcohol, just really going through a fucking personal rebrand. But went the fuck in. Episode 15, the one right after that. It's a great episode. I went the fuck in, and I remember recording it too. I was pulled over at this park that I like to go running at through some trails right by my house. It's kind of what got me into this little like trail running thing that I do. It's like I know who the fuck I am. And it's episode number 15. It's in the top 10 most listened to episodes of the Let's Talk About It podcast to date. Highly recommend. And I definitely, this is when really it's kind of the personal development side of things starts coming into play. Like the weed shit starts seeming less and less important, and like bettering ourselves and myself specifically was very important. Episode 16. We had a few in a row. These were like some bangers back to back to back, and it was at a point in my life where I really like I said, 14 was in May. The 15 I think was in June or July, and then 16, 75 hard. It was freaking hard. Came out in October. I kind of took a break, and I was like really making some hard progress in becoming a better version of myself, really diving in on the jiu-jitsu. I started in May of 2020 on my like 11-year anniversary of being clean, or 10 or 11-year anniversary of being clean, getting physically assaulted for not wearing a mask while I was wearing a mask. And I just was, while I was trying to buy groceries for my toddler daughters at the time before they came over the next day, and I just was shocked and appalled. And I said, I'm going to learn back to the jiu-jitsu gym. I'm going to learn this shit, and I'm going to fucking get so good that no human is ever able to put their hands on me in that way, shape, or form again, unless they're a better jiu-jitsu practitioner than me. And that's what I've done. I got my purple belt in 3 years. I've been training for almost 5 years now. It's been almost 2 years as a purple belt. I train every day almost, with the exception of a couple times I got injured. We'll get into those, but that's been about the most extensive time I've taken off. One time last summer, but other than that, it's maybe a week here or 2 weeks there for some minor injury, and And even in the meantime, doing some other shit. And I'll get into that in a second. But October of 2020 is when I first completed 75 Hard. I've done it multiple times since then. I've done the entire Live Hard program. It is definitely fucking hard, and it will change your fucking life. And every time you do it, it will get harder. I'm at a phase right now where it's like it's been very difficult for me to get through it. And I've got a lot of other shit going on, and so like there is a point where it's a diminishing return where I'm not as on point as I could be because I'm letting the shit from 75 Hard take a priority over other things that need to get done. As a single father of three, with 50% custody, I can't do that all the time without some serious overhaul in certain areas of my life, which, maybe that's an excuse. Like maybe that's something I need to really take a look at. And as I'm continuing to progress and grow in other areas, maybe that will. And I have a feeling that this training program I'm just starting, which I can get into later, is going to have a part in that because I'm going to be training for something that is not a race, which is not in my wheelhouse normally, but I'm not training to go out there and just be the fucking last guy, or second to last guy. Like, and, I may not win, but I damn sure ain't going to be one of the last couple. So, starting a training regiment right now, try to be ready, show up and do what needs to be done. Episode 21 was put out on January 6th. That was a quick turnaround, January 6th, 2021, interesting day in American history. Highly recommend going to listen to that one because I give a perspective from somebody that lives around DC that I had a shit ton of friends who were at that rally, and the shit they were saying all matches up with all the footage that's been coming out lately of police officers leading people around, agent provocateurs, unredacted documents talking about FBI presence there, posed as Trump supporters. The girl I lost my virginity to becomes a meme. Elizabeth from Knoxville, Tennessee. If you don't know who she is, go look her up. She said, "We're storming the Capitol. It's a revolution." One of the funniest memes of 2021. January, she gave it to us. My God. I know I've spoken about her before. I had such a tumultuous relationship with her and was so in love with her and took really a psychological beating for a good 2 years on and off. And what's very big of her is she is a little bit of a psychopath and she's definitely bipolar. But she had reached out to me and apologized and was pretty much like, "Hey, everything that I said was your fault was not. It was my fault. I was dumb and young and I'm sorry and you deserve better than that." And I literally just a fucking weight was lifted off my shoulders. So shout out to Elizabeth from Knoxville. I know I just made fun of her, but really she is a fucking kind of a fucking decent human in a lot of ways. Episode 22, the following one. Oh, also J6, man, my homegirl from Oklahoma came through. One of my fellow memers, and we got to kick it, burn one, chill, and it just was like cool in that era to be able to like travel and meet people. I met other fellow memer, Fancy Booth. 2020 was wild. All the traveling that I was doing in 20 and 21, all over the country, LA, San Fran, SAC, fucking Santa Cruz, Colorado, New York, North Carolina, driving, flying, not giving a fuck. I miss it. Episode 22, very popular one. White labeling hash, insurrections, and weird injection flexing. This is in the era when people started posting all their fucking vax cards. Like, what the fuck was that, man? What was that? Like, people really wanted to virtue signal, man. I actually lost some respect for Mackie on that one. That was I get his perspective, and like many others, but at the same time, that your personal choice is one thing, but posting it to try to get your employees to do it, another thing entirely. I don't fuck. But, I understand it. I understand the perspective in a lot of ways. My point of view is not a commonly shared one in most cases. If you're here, there's a reason for it. You know, you're not here by accident. Episode 23, two friends of the Let's Talk About It podcast. They got to me through District Cannabis. That's where I met a sweet, wonderful angel named Shannon whom I love dearly and is honestly one of the best marketing people in the cannabis realm. She does not deserve half the shit she has to deal with from these companies. She is a beautiful human inside and out and is very fucking good at her job. Shout out to Shannon. But District Cannabis and the Last Prisoner Project brought out Natalia Wade and Stephanie Shepard, two women who were freed thanks to the Last Prisoner Project, and they share their story and what they went through and how they were able to get out of the feds, and how they were connected to some weed crime. And the Last Prison Project did a lot of work. Steph Shep still works for them, I believe. I haven't spoken with her in at least a year or maybe two. I actually talked to Natalia still fairly regularly. Her and I actually were talking the other day about setting up a follow-up episode. So I'm going to have a conversation with her. She has a really awesome perspective. It's fully off papers now. Like I remember when we recorded, they couldn't. It's an audio only, but like we had to we couldn't talk about them smoking here and like due to the legality of their parole. I don't know if they had med cards in Cali. I think they did. She they went pretty in depth with it. A very informative episode. Highly recommend. Followed up again, the guy who was like this was like another District Cannabis connection. They connected me with fucking Niambe Tosh, where if you know anything about me, you know Peter Tosh is one of my favorite artists of all time, and has been for a long time. I have a long history with Mr. Tosh, and to interview his daughter was really cool. And she shared her brother's story and what happened to him and how he was murdered in jail, and he was in there for a nonviolent weed crime. I mean, I think he had like 30 pounds on him or something. I don't exactly remember, but I want to get her back on. I haven't talked to her. She's on my list of people to reach out to. I have a huge fucking list of dates to start locking in, because there's a lot of people I want to bring back, have a different conversation with them now that things are, maybe years down the road. A lot of people who I've wanted to get on that I just never thought about or never reached out to, people that I've never even thought about having on. So yeah, Nyambe Tosh, great episode. Check it out. Episode 27 was a very personal episode to me. Death rules everything around me. It was like death comes in threes. I lost my buddy Drew Klenkel, rest in peace. He lost a battle with cancer after he got that shit, man. I mean, look, to be fair, he had cancer twice before, but apparently there's some immune suppression and it makes fucking the turbo cancers, man. My Uncle Dirk fucking got boosted up fucking and then some cancer boosted the fuck up. He's doing okay now, but it's been a road, man. It's been a fucking road. Mr. Jarrett, one of the most influential humans on my entire life. He was a high school teacher of mine. Really set on a path of seeking knowledge and truth. Which is a path that, in my opinion, every man should be on. Real talk, real fucking talk. My high school band, Kill Whitey, had a song about Mr. Jarrett. He was my world history teacher in 10th grade, and then in 11th grade he was my African American studies teacher. Somebody he had to sign off on you taking that class. He let me take that class because I told him at first. I was like, yo, Mr. First of all, I failed his history class. We were doing the schedule and I was like, Jarrett, I know I failed your class because I stopped coming the last 2 quarters. Will you sign off on me coming to African American studies? He said, hell no. Without hesitation. He actually had this like yardstick that he would just like if you were like trying to sleep in his class, he'd whack the fuck out of your desk, maybe your hands even if they were sitting there. He'd whack the shit out of the chalkboard or the fucking pull down white shit they use as a screen. I'm having a blank on the word. He fucking slammed down. Hell no. I said, Mr. Jarrett, please. He said, no. Why should I let you into African American Studies class? I said, Mr. Jarrett, somebody has to represent white people. And he just looked at me and busted out laughing. And he said, what do you mean? I said, Mr. Jarrett, how many white people are in the class? And he just like looked at me with smiled, this big gap fucking in between his teeth. He said, none. I said, all right then. And passed him I forget what you call your fucking sheet for your class. registration. There's a name for it. Ugh. But he signed off on that shit. And I'll tell you what, it was like a half credit class or a one credit class or something. It was only half the year. And so, like, I had student aid for German for that other half, like, credit or whatever. And then half the year I had African American studies. I went to, like, first of all, I barely even made it to the first period. If I came to first period, I was asleep. I dropped out in like January after a friend of mine's funeral in high school, and so at that point, I didn't even give a fuck. Although I did read the book that we had to read from the Browder file. Worth reading. What else? Episode 38 was a big one. It was vote no on question 4. I even went to the cesspool of Reddit and dropped it in there. You know, I went through the whole legislation. Took me a couple hour podcast to get through it. And, there was a lot of people that were advocating for it. All these people wanted it, thought it was going to be so great. I saw through that shit. I talked about True Leave, their corruption, how much money they were putting towards this, as well as what other companies were paying a nonprofit that was owned by the assistant to the Speaker of the House in Maryland. It was like such shenanery and tomfoolery, and I really fucking pissed me off. But 55 was a good one. Phase one. I've completed phase one, and that was kind of a big deal because to that point I had never completed phase one. The Live Hard program in its entirety is 75 hard. It's kind of the foundational part. And then you have phase one, phase two, and phase three. I completed phase one. That was a big deal. I had never done that before. There's a couple episodes right around that were also pretty good in the realm of like personal development and kind of my process for certain shit. Episode 56, 57, 56, Aaron Brown Around Town. This was like a throwback episode that never got released from during the pandemic. We recorded a bunch at the shop and so dropped that one. Aaron Brown, if you don't know him, he's a guy I grew up with. If you're a Baltimorean, you know Aaron Brown. He is everywhere all the time and has been for years. You know, that's my guy. Love me some Aaron Brown. He's like the guy you make fun of, but if somebody else tries to make fun of him, it's like, that's our guy. He hung out at the skate park, and when you just come to like the skateboard shop as a rollerblader, should tell you everything you need to know. You know, 57, 58. This was in the King Kron era of Let's Talk About It during the pandemic, where we were doing some cool episodes. Me and King Kron. I had Noah Hess on, who says he was a writer on Workaholics. I don't know. I hate even saying this. Gone at length about Noah in prior episodes, but I love him, whether he was or he wasn't. He's fucking hilarious. He's a comedian. He is a very interesting human, and he suffers and feels deeply, and he cares so much about his dog and his friends. For real. Love Noah. But we did an episode with him. We did another one with him, me, him, and King Kron, where we did Charizards and Chimichangas, where we were cracking open Pokemon cards looking for Charizards, and we were eating burritos and utilizing the different Hot Ones hot sauces. It was fucking rad, man. It was great. 59, Panda from District Extracts. Controversial figure. Always has been. That's why him and I got along. During the COVID and the vaccine shit, we started bumping heads. He was like, "You're fucking on some conspiracy shit. I don't even fuck with vaccines, but this is new tech, blah, blah, blah." I was like, "Yeah, and it's gonna fucking kill people." And then him and I kind of had a falling out. I made some repost, I'm sure. I forget exactly what it was, but I'm sure it had something to do with like not wanting, dudes dressed like women going into, the girls' bathroom or something. He tries to hit me with some, well, what if your kid is trans type shit? And I'm like, we'll deal with that when, if and when, but, and then I like unfriended him or unfollowed him on the gram because I was like, at that point, I didn't want to deal with anybody who was like like if you weren't seeing what was going on and you were trying to actively argue with me and like even once presented new information, refused to believe it or like take it in or even acknowledge it, that let me know that I couldn't keep interacting with you because I just banging my head on the wall. And then, it made sense a little bit later when he came out as two spirited and I don't know, went on some trans journey. And I didn't see any posts really about his kids or anything, and he's got like four or five of them. And I reached out to him not that long ago, and just like I don't think really tried to bury the hatchet, but just kind of said what's up, and sing about him, whatever. Because I hold no malice or spite towards anybody. It's a waste of energy. 64 and 65, the pre and post rite of passage 307 Project mission, the Rite of Passage 307 Project. If you're unaware, Chad Wright, Navy SEAL and ultra runner, man of God, serious fucking guy. I was in a rough point. It was like right after my kid's mom left. I sold my motorcycle, paid my rent, and rented a car and went down to Georgia for a 24-hour hike through the mountains, 24 hours straight, no stopping. It was the hardest physical thing I think I've ever done in my life. I had a torn MCL to boot. I've fucking ripped that motherfucker doing jiu-jitsu. Healed it by doing as much strength training as I could and as much running as I could. Forward movements were good. Lateral movements were fucked up. So no jiu-jitsu for about a month and a half. Did this thing, probably fucked some more shit up. But it was like such a spiritual experience being out there, the type of bonds that I built with the people on my team, uh, the respect I earned from the guys that were leading the mission, the confidence, belief, the ability to utilize the power of the spoken word. These things all fucking hit me, and I really, it put me down a path of really trying to figure out how to do some shit in the recovery world. I was kind of playing around with the idea of starting a recovery house. When I came back, all I could think of was, damn, this is the epitome of staying fucking clean. 24 hours, no matter what, no quitting. And, so I've been on a path for the last year and a half trying to fucking open a recovery house. And it's just been setback after setback after setback. And, the mission doesn't stop. It's just how we get there changes. And that's cool. This journey has like been so tough, but it's just eye-opening and I feel so grateful. These last 6 months have been fucking so beautiful. And things in some ways feel tough, but I feel so much like God has got me right now. Um, and I have to go through this to be able to appreciate these next phases that I'm going to be going through and to really put myself through some struggle. Episode number 70. Noelle, my girl, a local friend of mine, has a very unique perspective. Was married to a woman, now has two children with a black man. Is from California, lived in Baltimore, back out in California. Has had many perspectives in life and is willing to change her perspective based on new information and accept that she has changed and grown as a human and it's okay to do things differently than you once did. And she's just a really cool, she's a beautiful musician, an artist. You could check her out on Spotify. I think YouTube, what at the underscore only underscore Noel. Also at Burning Witch 86, I think is her personal. Don't get mad at me, Noel, if you're listening to this, but I just want people to be able to experience your music and support you in a way that you deserve because it's fucking rad. And episode number 75. Dude, episode 75, easily in the my top three personal favorite. Chad Wright, the guy I just mentioned from The Rock. This man, when he does podcasts, he does some of the biggest entrepreneur and business and personal development athlete podcasts in the world. Literally. When this man goes and speaks to a company for a corporate event or whatever, the man is getting paid $30,000 an hour for an hour's worth of fucking speaking. 30 grand. This motherfucker got on, did an episode of the Let's Talk About It podcast with, you know, maybe 1,000 listens tops per episode, on all platforms. This man believed in his mission so much, in my mission so much, the things I've been through, the things he's been through. and the belief that even if at most 1,000 people hear it, it could make an impact on someone, you know. And it really just shows a humility and a humanity that is truly indicative of his relationship with God and his his relationship with his fellow man. Has a great podcast, the 307 Project. They put on multiple training missions per year, a few different ones, and you have to get accepted. I mean, literally, when I got accepted, it was just like such serendipitous timing. I definitely had a little bit of a poor me application, but also, my strengths as well as my weaknesses. I actually just sent another application in for their advanced ROP mission coming in 2025, and you have to have completed the ROP to be able to even do apply for the advanced ROP. If you haven't, it's an automatic no go, bucko. So, and I was not the most athletic by any means. I was actually probably the worst guy there in the bottom three on the team, I would probably say, as far as like physical wellness. And, I was like a fucking tin man basically. Both knees were hurting, hips, feet, wrong shoes. I mean, it was a shit experience, honestly, and it was more hard than I thought it was gonna be. It's like going into a tattoo thinking it's not gonna hurt and then realizing like, fuck, I'm an idiot. And I was very poorly prepared and injured, but it was mine to bear, and it took a lot for me to even fucking get down there. Chad and I did a 2-hour podcast. It is not like any other podcast he has done. I guarantee you that. We talk about different things that I'm sure, has never discussed with any other podcast host. Some topics maybe on his own podcast, but even those in a fresh, different perspective. We talk about the ROP. We talk about his perspective on addiction and who he is as a man, and how he carried things in his marriage when his wife was struggling while he was active duty Navy SEAL. And the way he took responsibility for his role as a leader in his family of him and his wife. He couldn't leave her high and dry as a fucking junkie. He helped her and helped nourish her back to health and love her and cared about her and showed her to Christ as he got in down that path. That's fucking cool shit, man. I don't give a fuck what you think. That's easily one of the best episodes you could listen to. And my hope is that you would listen to the things that he says and that you would go and check out some of his content, because it has and maybe even go do some of their training missions, support their business in whatever ways you can. Because I can tell you, when I did that rite of passage, the ROP mission, I mean, he said that was going to do more for you in 24 hours than you could do in 6 months. I'll tell you what, for a whole year, I thought about that mission every day. My hopes are that you would listen to that episode and it would inspire you to go challenge yourself and do something hard. Go support the 307 Project, apply to be on the ROP, and any and all of anything attached to them. For real. A great group of guys, not just Chad, but his brother Blake, Cornbread, fucking James Ward, Chili, Brooke, the whole team, man. A1 crew. And I've met some great people that I've gotten to train with on a couple different occasions, do some cool missions with, and hopefully many, many more to come. Episode number 81. 81. Sean Doherty, dude. UFC veteran. First veteran in the UFC. Youngest for many years in the UFC. Held the record. Got taken out of the fight in about 25 seconds, but he was 19. Went. I mean, dude, this guy is fucking wealth of information. Highly recommend. We did 2.5 hours, I think. And we traveled the galaxy too, man. We talked psychedelics. We talked about his experience as a Mormon for over 20 years, his experience in the military, living in Japan, training martial arts for 30 years. This guy, I mean, being the punk scene, skateboarding, poisons in food, conspiracy, Eddie fucking Bravo and 10th Planet, fighting, history, man. Sean Doherty, great dude. He will be back on the podcast. Actually, if you're in Ohio or have the opportunity, Alien Blueprint on Instagram, go find him, go watch, suck up as much knowledge as you can from that guy. He will respond to you. He will talk to you, especially if you tell him you're friends with me. I have revolved some of my jiu-jitsu game around a whole series of movements that I learned from his YouTube videos and like setups that I learned from there and stuff that I hit on fucking high level people because I've hit it on a ton of people at this point. I mean, high level for where I'm at, but not fucking Gordon Ryan, you fucking faggot. Okay, no, the highest levels is like Gordon Ryan and Craig. I'm sure fucking Gordon Ryan actually just put out an instructional on this exact fucking armbar series. So, coincidence? He knows, man. Danaher knows Doherty, bro. You think Danaher hasn't studied every fucking UFC tape to the T? Come on, man. He's dealt with too many MMA fighters. The guy, you just don't know about his MMA fucking accolades. He was Georgia St. Pierre's coach. As we get we're getting into these more recent episodes. Episode 95, Doctor at Secret to Everything on YouTube, Instagram. Go follow Dr. Kim, man. I'm telling you, 95 is not the place to start. If you've never listened to any other episodes of my podcast, I'm actually fuck it, yeah, it is. Because if you can make it through Dr. Kim's episode, then you're a Let's Talk About It lifer. You better get on the Patreon. You better hit Dr. Kim up, get in with her, get an energy reading, get fucking acquainted with her shit, man. I'm telling you. Frequency healing, all sorts of shit. Past lives. I mean, do you realize you're listening to real deal game creating Anunnaki here, motherfucker? Episode 95. Oh, that's Dr. Kim. Episode 99. So episode 99 was actually it's about to get released right now at the time of this recording. But it was initially an inner circle call I did where I gave a breakdown on my experience on this recent 24-hour hike where we also traveled 50 miles. And my experience was vastly different than that at the Rite of Passage. And we did things a little bit differently. It wasn't a 3-7 event. We did have time where we were resting, but we were also moving a lot faster when we were moving. So it was different, but I was able to really apply the things that I learned on the Rite of Passage, that helped me, the things that hurt me, how to make sure that I was paying attention, staying present, being a leader in whatever ways I could. It was a pretty meaningful experience, and I didn't want to record two different things about it. But I did want to release it. I figure it's been up on Patreon now, so I'll release it to the rest of the world, so you guys can hear it and hear about my experience and how different it is than the Rite of Passage. I also did this one on short notice. It was kind of crazy. I got laid off from my part-time gig on the day that I left for this mission, and honestly, most people probably would have just said, "Ah, fuck it," but not me. Fucking trucked on through. I said, I have to do this. I got called to do this. I wasn't like originally an original teammate on this mission, but somebody dropped out. I was recommended. Got to go train with some people I knew from the Gram, some people I knew from the mission that I did. Everyone there had pretty much done a 3-7 mission. It was a great experience. We actually did like an after action report, me and all the other guys. I think I'm gonna reach out and get that video from that Zoom call and post that up on the Patreon as well. Because I think it's valuable, and I kind of gave my briefing, and everyone kind of went through and gave a little thing about what it meant to them. And it wasn't everybody on the call that was there, but it was the majority of them. A lot of experience in doing these high endurance races and ultra marathons and shit, but you know, that leads us to episode number 100, which is also about to get released on the Patreon. We'll be up there until maybe like another week or something. And then then I'll drop it on the other platform. But I was able to get a very special guest for episode 100, Joe fucking Hardcore. He's a straight edge dude from Philly, has ran Philly hardcore shows, booking some of the best hardcore shows on the East Coast, really, for many years. His mentality is awesome. If you ever watched the show Gangland, he was in the Friends Stand United episode. Highly recommend going and check that out. Dude, stand-up guy, jiu-jitsu practitioner, union guy, mason, stoneworker, fucking up at 3, 4 a.m. type guy. Busts his ass, hard working, has thrown the This Is Hardcore festival for almost 20 years. Shared a lot of his experience in business and how he's not a businessman or wasn't a businessman. Just learned about fucking business lines of credit, shit like that. After 20 years in the game, right? It's a great fucking episode. We go in for 3.5 hours, travel the galaxy, talking about jujitsu, punk rock, hardcore, skateboarding, some government shit. He has already said he was down to do another episode. I mean, for him, this is the first time he's ever done a fucking weed podcast. You know? I mean, it really is. It really was an honor and a privilege to be able to fucking call Joe Hardcore a friend of the Let's Talk About It podcast. You know, um, and that's kind of where I'm at with things, dude. I'm trying to challenge myself, step outside maybe my normal realm of what I would do and who I would talk to, and really try to be able to share a message and have people that have a cool message that may have been outside of my normal realm of just like a weed guy. So yeah, 100 fucking episodes in, man. We just went through some of the best of some of my personal favorites and some of the stories behind them. And I hope that if you're listening to this one right now, that in a much quicker time frame, we can be listening to episode number. I could be recording episode number 200. You could be listening to it. And we can go through many of your favorite episodes as hopefully uh, hooked listener of the Let's Talk About It podcast. I really appreciate everyone for the support. If you've ever listened to an episode of this show, if you've ever shared it, which I greatly appreciate if you have, please continue to do so if you find any sort of value. If you don't like it, don't share it. Totally understand. But if you do like it, fucking share it with somebody. And not even just don't share it one time. Share that episode, you know? You hear another episode you like, share that one. There's one that you're not super into, don't share it. But if you think one of the guests gave some value, or I did, and there was something that you learned or found to be funny, or it took you outside of your normal mindset, or helped change your thought process in some way about anything, come on, man, share that with someone else. Do them a favor. Maybe it could change something for them. I don't mind asking for your help, right? We as a community thrive on the help of others, and that's why also I'm committed to bringing different guests, like I said, that I may not have originally brought on, but I want to have some interesting conversations, and I want to learn people's stories and the things they've been through, and what it's taken for them to be where they're at and grow and learn. And I already have some potential people that are in the works. We just got to lock down some times, man. And if I can get these times and days locked in with them, I promise you we are going to have some fucking fun this year. There's going to be some real cool episodes, maybe some cool videos. I might try and do some traveling. The sky's the limit. I'm fucking ready. If you want to support the show, DM me. I have t-shirts. I need to fucking revamp, merch situation, but I assure you that'll be coming soon. I've got some new product ideas, gonna be doing some pre-orders for some shit, gonna fucking come up with some cool shit to do to get, and hopefully maybe get some events going myself in one way or another, that can bring the community out. I hope to uh I hope to see you. You can find me, Lord Bongtimore, on everywhere. On Twitter, it's just at Bongtimore. Let's Talk About It on Patreon. LordBongtimore.com has a bunch of my links, supplement links, so you can fucking be healthier, right? If you want to have access to me in a personal way, get on Patreon. Pay me for a little bit of my time, $20 a month. You get 3 calls a month, and I will also do an individual call with you, so where we can fucking chop it up about anything you want, as long as you're not a Fed boy. With that, go to firstforum.com, support the show, support yourself. firstform.com/Elliot, ELLIOT, ACES, ACES. Get you some protein, some joint shit, some fucking vitamins, some fucking cool gear, some shit to keep you warm in this weather. Just fucking go get after it, man. Get out there. Baltimore out.